welcome to the Undercovers Football Podcast. I'm Ben, joined as always by Connor and Paul. And tonight we will have another guest later on in about 20-25 minutes. And Ajay Cybulski, one of the the new stars of the Bills media game. So looking forward to having AJ on and kind of hearing his thoughts on everything Bills related. We got a lot going on. Training camp at Fisher is wrapped up, but I mean the team is still practicing. We had our first preseason game, which we're gonna dive right into momentarily, and then this week we got joint practices in Pittsburgh as well as a preseason game number 2. So a lot of exciting stuff to talk about tonight.
What do you mean by exciting? Because there's a portion of that I would not consider exciting. Let's be honest, Ben.
if you're a true football fan, I think any of this stuff, even the preseason, like third and fourth quarter, these roster battles. I mean, even the lower end ones, they're intriguing. Like, I mean, yes, the final score was very one sided. But I thought we got a lot out of that first preseason game. Now, obviously, didn't end how some fans would like it. But I mean, preseason you always gotta kind of go in, with the perspective that it's not just about really the outcome of the games per se, just more or less, just how certain players play. And for the Bills, I mean, I think guys that you are looking at, I mean, maybe you would like to see some more from Coleman or other guys, from the first team offense, but the first team offense really didn't show too much. But as we get into it, like, I mean, number one takeaway, of course, is going to be that the quarterback play was not too great, and it really, I guess it wasn't because of the bad quarterback play, but an injury to Shane Buechele, who let's just say was less than stellar on Sunday, led to an acquisition today. So the Bills did add another arm in Ben DiNucci, because Josh actually was the only healthy quarterback at practice today, because Mitch had to be excused for a personal reason. So Josh definitely got all of his reps in today, sorry. But Ben DiNucci is a Bill. They also signed another receiver, and Claypool was out of practice today. So anyone hoping that Claypool makes the roster, that's starting to look like more of a long shot by day. I know Connor's relieved by that news. So Demir Bird, who's another former Panther, he does have return experience too. So maybe McDermott and Bean weren't too impressed with what they saw out of Hamler. I know Hamler had the one fumble on one of the kickoffs. But I guess if we each were to give another takeaway, obviously besides the great quarterback play, to me, my number one takeaway from that game, from what I saw, is that Khalil Shakir is going to be, I know a lot of people are still, saying that Kincaid's weapon one or whatever, receiver one. Don't get me wrong, I think Kincaid's going to have a great season, but I still think Shakir is going to be the best player on offense outside of Josh when it's all said and done this season. So I think, he kind of just showed he's picking up where he left off last season. Just the connection with Josh. He seemed like he was always open. So my number one takeaway was Khalil Shakir is here, and he's going to be a problem this year.
Well, that was quite the way to spin it. Khalil Shakir is here and is going. Wow.
And it rhymes too. So
I was going to say, did you come
perfect.
up with that one like right before the show, Ben? All righty. So, fun fact, I was in Daytona during the preseason game. I had to literally keep up with it through outside means, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I am here's the thing, right? I'm a very superstitious person about preseason because I watched a team go 4-0 in the preseason a few years ago. Everybody was like, "Oh man, this team has some hype. This team has some potential." You know what that team's final record in the regular season was, gentlemen? Here's your trivia question. One of the times you saw a team go 4-0 in the preseason and they went 0-16 in the regular season?
I'll take a Cleveland Browns thing.
It was the Cleveland Browns back in 2017. And yes, that was quite the time. So it's just me. I personally do not care if they win or lose a preseason game. And it's better that they don't go 4-0. That's just me. But at the end of the day, where was did they stop trying in the fourth quarter? Like, is that what happened here? Did we just go, eh?
It was a very, it was a very low effort type game. I mean, I'm going to give you even in a low effort type game, there was still tons of positives. I mean, Dorian Williams had 6 tackles in that game. Like we talked about him last Monday, about a guy that, the guy that's going to be behind Bernard and Milano. Like that's a really good sign that Dorian Williams had a really good preseason game, but also Javon Solomon looked really good in pass rush. He looked really good in run defense, and he looked solid all around. As a first time in the NFL as a rookie. But what I am going to say is I'm kind of disappointed in how we performed in the way that we didn't look like we kind of cared. Like I know it's preseason, not a lot of people are going to care, but I wanted to see the players show just a little bit more effort and just a little bit more fight. 33-6 is going to happen in the preseason, but I just wanted to see some of these depth players show just a little bit more effort and a little bit more fight.
Yeah, you're trying to make the roster. Come on now.
Right.
I mean, even Sean McDermott called the team out for a lack of what seemed like preseason fire. And I mean, exactly my thought, where was it? The only one who about showed any fire on the whole team was Tyler Bass. And that's obviously the reason why. It's the good luck charm after all. He was the only person on the Bills to put up any points. So at the end of the day, I don't really have any other thoughts on what to say other than did you both of you also notice the very, very minimal usage of a certain Zach Davidson in that preseason game?
Zach Davidson.
I mean, the entire passing offense really didn't show much besides the plays that I mentioned to Shakir. I mean, MVS had a drop. Hamler
Of course he did.
Had a drop. So I mean, the quarterback play obviously was less than desirable. Let's see what we get from DiNucci. That's gonna be interesting. And then just I guess as we transition before we wait for AJ, obviously we aren't gonna see as much from the preseason game, but as we kind of see Joe Brady's offense and how it might look. I mean, I think Ray Davis is going to be a pivotal piece, and he showed some flash and some limited run.
Yes,
especially considering I mean, even just as recently today, there's still reports of Cook having problems with ball security. So if that keeps being an issue, look at Ray Davis to continue to just kind of, plant his flag as far as, running, I guess, his spot in the running back rotation. I mean, he could eventually perhaps even surpass Cook if Cook just keeps, fumbling, keeps dropping it, and Davis keeps, keeps it up. I mean, the plays in the passing game, he didn't really show as much from the run game, but the run blocking overall, I think, was kind of poor, even when Cook was in. But I mean, Davis had that nice catch on the sideline. He also had that nice play where he caught it and just, kind of trucked the defender. So I liked what I saw from Ray Davis. I mean, Kincaid had I don't know if he had 2 catches or was just one. I know he made at least one nice catch on the sideline. So it was nice to see, Kincaid, kind of, even in a limited time, make his presence felt. I mean, Coleman even had a catch. I know the red zone, there were some, maybe not, the separation you'd like to see, even though there were some contact, but obviously, with Josh Allen, when you get Josh Allen in there at quarterback, I think those throws are going to be different too. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing more of Allen with Keon, and we may not see it this preseason, but we're definitely going to see it
we need to see it
in
week
the
one.
regular season. And Curtis Samuel too, he was another weapon. You kind of saw his speed and ability. Yes, it was a small sample size, but that's something I think the Bills haven't really had in their bag recently, was a effective wide receiver screen. They tried it numerous times last season with Stephon Diggs, and it didn't really work out, in my opinion. So if they, just give Josh another little easy button, some yard after catch. And I mean, Samuel even has the big play ability to, to break it off for an even bigger play. So I'm looking forward to more of Curtis Samuel in this offense. And I think the weapons, yes, they're not the star names, maybe the household names that some teams have, but I think the weapons are, and what Joe Brady is looking to do with this offensive identity, I think the offense is going to be humming. And I think even by as early as week 1, we're going to see, how good they can be.
Exactly that. I personally would rather not see a single snap out of any of the ones for the rest of preseason. Forget about it. But I will say one more thing when
let me just say one thing about that.
Ben?
The Carolina game, I wouldn't mind maybe one series or two. Just, kind of, make sure the offense is fully in sync before the first official game. I mean, obviously the Steelers game, you have the joint practice, so that kind of will serve almost, as a preseason setting.
Yep. Good enough. Good enough in my opinion, especially considering that exactly that you're going to practice with them jointly and then you're going to play an actual preseason game against them. So the only hope that I have is that during the joint practices is when the ones really find their groove. And hopefully, I think the best part about it is the fact that hopefully in the joint practices, we'll get we'll really be able to see how the one's offensive line looks against a guy like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. Like, just have them bum rush the whole time and see just how well the ones can hold up. You know what? I was actually thinking about this earlier. Did SVPG Cedric Van Prangranger get some time with the twos? I know he got some time at training camp, but did he actually play any like meaningful snaps in the preseason game that I didn't see?
I'm not 100% sure if he was in with the twos or he was in with the threes. I would assume that he probably got if he got some snaps in training camp with the twos.
Yeah, he did.
I will loosely assume that he got some snaps with the twos, with the twos, but I would have probably assumed he probably got most of his snaps with the threes. Back to the bubble screen when Josh Allen threw that bubble screen, and the replay showed on the screen on the jumbotron at the stadium. My entire section just lit up. It's just like bubble screen. Like everyone in the section, including me, is like, the bubble screen is back is because it's just something that was missing out of the Buffalo Bills offense last year. Just different plays. It's always was really just mainly just the same few plays, just wrinkled up in a different formation. So to see, Curtis Samuel kind of be like the more effective Isaiah McKenzie role. Like you can throw Curtis Samuel behind Josh Allen as a running back. You can throw him in the slot. You can throw him outside, and he can play underneath. He can play outside, and he can go over the middle of the field. He's your more effective Isaiah McKenzie, but he's going to do a lot more than what Isaiah McKenzie brought to the Bills back then. And then there's Khalil Shakir. The run after catch ability is going to be, I feel like, something that we haven't seen. Like they tried it with Ken Dorsey, but Joe Brady is going to make it way more effective. And you've seen that with the ones, even though they played about a series and a half because end of the first quarter came in like middle of their second possession, and then they just took everyone out, took all the ones out after that. So a series and a half with Josh Allen, the starters, they looked really, really fresh. They were really the focal point and the bright spot in a 33-6 preseason stomping at home.
Paul, you look like you're out of words. What was the vibe like in the stadium?
I'm not going to overreact like they did last year in the preseason.
Yeah, because I think after last preseason, most people who were overreacting probably after about week 3 or 4 felt a little I'm not going to say stupid, but they're like, man, maybe I shouldn't have overreacted in preseason.
Didn't the entirety of Bills Mafia complain vigorously about how bad the O-line was going to be in the preseason last year?
Like everything kind of was getting.
Didn't somebody make a comment about Terrell Bernard before he really
Well, he didn't play in the preseason, so that was a big concern because he was injured. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, because I remember last season a bunch of Bills Mafia guys were complaining about how bad the offensive line was going to look in the regular season, and it turned out to be a really nice unit, which is why I've held my tongue about the offensive line. But as a matter of fact, that's why I actually have so much hope for Cedric Van Prangranger. I would love to see him turn into the next elite center, the next non-ACL torn Connor Williams. But yeah, that would be.
Let's actually have him. Let's have him be like Connor Williams, but he can actually snap the ball.
Yeah, for real.
That was one of the issues with Connor Williams.
That's the thing. Connor Williams was the 4th graded center last year per PFF. I always looked at that ranking and went, "Do y'all not watch the games? Do y'all
No, they don't, because look at Terrell Bernard's PFF gradings.
I don't trust them.
You're
going to rank Connor Williams 4th as a center, but his ball snapping skills are toward the bottom. Can't count how many times I just sat there last season and went, why? And that's why every time I saw it on the Shout Insiders text when Connor McGovern was having snapping issues, I just went, not again, man. I don't need this again. Not another year of having to deal with this. But
one thing I will say out of the preseason game, I feel like the starting safety roles might be 90% locked up. I feel like it's going to be Rapp and Hamlin for the foreseeable future as your starting safeties.
The DeMar Hamlin resurgence. I love it.
To me, DeMar Hamlin looked good on Saturday.
Woohoo.
If somehow Cole Bishop can get in the final 2 preseason games and somehow he looks way better than what DeMar Hamlin has looked like in OTAs, training camp, plus the first preseason game, that's how I think DeMar Hamlin loses a job. But I think it's DeMar Hamlin's job to lose at this point next to Taylor Rapp.
I guess just before we have AJ on, did you have any trivia tonight?
Ooh,
That's a good
I
question.
don't, but I could definitely give it to you because I was at the store. I was at the store the other day, and
Uh-oh.
I took a picture of a trivia game that had
Wait.
a really cool,
Wait, was
really
this at
good
Wegmans?
trivia question that has to do with kickoff returns. So it's like
Okay.
I could save this for the show or the one
All right.
after.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's hear it. First and
Alrighty.
foremost, though, go Bills. Per 716 Sports Blizzard here.
716.
716. Hey, it's a 16, okay? Don't judge me for numbers. But anyway,
All right.
obviously
for
we
this?
must say go Bills. But
Yes.
yes, let's hit it.
What Bills running back holds the most record for holds the record for most kickoff returns in the season with 64 in 2002?
I was about to troll and say Nyam Hines, but you said 2002, so I'm out. I have
Would it
no
have been
earthly
Willis
Running
idea.
back
McGahee?
in 2002?
Was it Willis McGahee?
No.
No. Travis Henry?
Nope.
2002.
2002.
I am intrigued to know
No,
the
Willis
answer.
McGahee used to be a running back around then, but that's the only one I could think of as far as Bills running back then. I know. I don't know. That's stumped. 2002. I was like 3, so.
I was just getting into NASCAR at that time, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
be
I
able to
mean,
tell you a thing.
I really don't have any great recollection. Sorry of the 2002 Bills running back situation.
Nobody knows Charlie Rogers here.
No, Charlie Rogers. I'm sorry.
I ain't got no idea who you're talking
Willis
about.
McGahee was. I took a picture of
I am not
literally
cultured.
just the back of a trivia game. It was
Okay.
literally just at Tops the other day. It was like trivia. It was like see what kind of trivia that they were showcasing in the back. It was like kickoff returns, and I guess that's one thing we could talk about before AJ comes on to the show.
Man
Is
said
what do you
Tops and
guys
not
feel
Wegmans.
about the new dynamic kickoff?
Stupid.
I have some strong opinions on it.
I need to see. To be honest, here's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people don't like changes, especially big changes like that. But I'm definitely gonna give it. I'm gonna give it some more. Some more of a trial and error before I kind of give my full opinion of it. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, like at least like week 5 or 6, just to kind of wait until at least teams have kind of figured out how to actually, first of all, return just as far as what coverage is and how they're going to actually execute the returns, and B, just kind of the strategy. So it's kind of going to be an interesting dynamic, I think, over the next couple of weeks as far as when the season starts, to kind of see how that new dynamic kickoff evolves. But I don't hate it as much as some people do, because I think special teams is an underrated aspect of the game. And
Always
if
has
it's
been.
truly 1/3 of the game, that I think the kickoffs should definitely be a bigger part. And recently, the kickoffs have basically been non-existent. So if they're going to make the kickoff a massive part, and if you have a really good special teams unit that can help you win, like, I think that's an underrated aspect of this new kickoff return rule. And obviously the kicks have to work themselves out. I'm not a fan of the onside kick rule aspects of it, but other than that, I think it could be interesting. Like, just the limited kickoffs I've seen so far, I actually haven't hated.
Really?
No.
I mean, I'm definitely
strange.
down for change, but at the same time, it's like I said long ago. If this winds up coming back to bite us because Braxton Berrios breaks the NFL record for most returns in a single season, I'm going to hate it.
I don't think Braxton Berrios is going to be close to breaking any kind of records. Braxton Berrios, He might have one or two, but
What
that's
do
not
do
going
you
to
not
happen.
do you not know the legend that is Braxton Berrios on special teams? Respect the legend that is Braxton Berrios on special
Yeah,
teams,
he's so
Ben.
legendary. The Jets gave him up for Gibson, who
I know.
had a touchdown his first game. So I think
Wait, you mean Tashawn Gibson, right? Or
no,
who you?
Xavier Gibson.
Oh, Xavier. Okay, yeah. Excuse me, but the local man in me is. They were all talking about Tashawn Gibson signing back with the Jags around
Yeah,
here. So.
and your Miami bias, I think, is taken over here with,
Has it?
yes, with Braxton Berrios. I don't think anyone should be worried about Braxton Berrios.
Well, you're not wrong, but
Right.
let me also be the only one to remind everybody that I was the one that said we should have never signed Mitch Trubisky in the first place. He did not look that good Saturday. And I said long before it started that we should have tried to sign Jameis Winston. And we
I'm
did.
pretty sure I said before you that we should have signed Jameis Winston.
Well, you and I both
Jameis
would say
Winston
this.
show off right now.
Right.
Well, you and I both would have said this, Ben, because we know Jameis Winston, and we just want Jameis Winston on the Bills.
Yeah,
but now he's about to be QB1 for the Browns.
Someone on Twitter pointed that out. Like, why would he be the backup when he could start on the Browns? And that's a excellent point because
we all know he's practically going to start on the Browns at some point. Deshaun is not Deshaun anymore.
At some point, he definitely is going to start on the Browns.
And it's just because Browns. The Browns.
Browns.
Juju Smith-Schuster was right all along. That doesn't mean the Bills should sign him. Brandon Beane, if you ever see this, don't even think about it. Don't you dare. Don't do it. You already signed Chase Claypool. Don't sign Juju Smith-Schuster. Please don't. Don't turn this team into the Buffalo Steelers.
Why not?
If you're going to do that, then might as well go try to sign Ben Roethlisberger to be quarterback's coach at this point. He wouldn't have much to teach Josh Allen because they're basically the same quarterback, except Allen can run a whole lot better than Ben in his prime. Ben in his prime, if he ran, he made the offensive coordinator hear about it after the play. You did not make that man run, even in his prime. Josh Allen will meanwhile run 52 yards for a touchdown easily, which the first time he gets that rushing touchdown from a long distance, I will scream. Like, absolutely go berserk just from wherever I'm at. You'll probably hear me all the way from Florida in Buffalo just yelling.
All right, it's time to bring in our special guest, Ajay Cybulski from. Oh, he didn't show up. It's not showing up. Hold up.
Paul, what have you done?
It's going to work. There we go. I had to change. I had to change the layout. How you doing, AJ? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Paul, Ben, Connor, appreciate you having me on. Preseason here in full swing. So excited to chat with you guys here on the Undercovers.
God, I'm so happy that football is back. First time in a long time. I'm this excited that football's back. Usually I just kind of ease into it because NASCAR is still in full swing for me. But this season, I'm just like, come on, bring on the football, please. I need to see some Bills football. And we definitely saw some Bills football on Saturday, for better or for worse.
Yeah, we did. It was definitely a tough game for the Bills. But, I think it's so hard with these games, what to really take away, what not to take away. One guy could have a really good performance, and it turns out to be a nothing burger. And then another guy could have a really good performance, but it could turn out to be the difference in him making the roster. So it's so hard with some of these. Like, some of these are, one trick ponies that have their good moments, right? And they have their good games where they're really settle in and do their thing. Zach Davidson's a guy we talked about all training camp and how he's been very, a guy that's been very consistent along the way. And he comes into the preseason and they target him once. It was an overthrown ball, and that's really all that you saw from Zach Davidson. So it's funny how you talk about this guy, he's being asked about. And I think, you give the nod to Quentin Morris right now, but it's just funny how, just for an example, Zach Davidson, a guy that, has been so consistent, just kind of falls off in game one. We'll see what he has in store the next 2 weeks.
I feel like I've seen this movie, honestly. I feel like I've seen this movie before. What they're doing is they're trying to hide him from the practice squad. They'll probably keep him they'll keep his snap count really, really, really low just so other teams don't look at this guy and go, wow, that's a certified baller. We're going to wait and see if the Bills shove him on their practice squad and steal him. So I've seen that in the past. I don't know if the Bills are trying to do that with Zach Davidson right now, but for, like you said, AJ, how consistent he was in training camp and just what happened in the first preseason game, that's kind of how it feels. Like, I feel like they're trying to hide him. So other teams, especially a certain team in my state, a little further south, doesn't look and go, "Hey, a tight end. Let's get this guy. Let's get this guy." Because our tight end room is sorely lacking right now, and he looks better than our tight end one. So there you have it. That's just what I think.
There you have it.
All right. The first thing for me here, AJ, we go on Twitter during the preseason game, you see all the overreactions, and then you see all the people's concerns. I guess my only real concern out of the first preseason game is how some of these depth players, kind of didn't really show much effort. You kind of heard Sean McDermott say that in his press conference. So should we be concerned about the way the Bills performed on Saturday, or do we kind of look past this and say this is preseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I think a performance like that, like at the end of the day, the Bills' starting unit got beat, the Bills' second unit got beat, and the Bills' third unit got beat. So all three units, on the Bills were beat on Saturday, right? Saturday, yeah, on Saturday against the Bears. So I think there maybe is some concern there, but overall, I mean, looking towards the season, it's really a nothing burger. I mean, you see the Chiefs get destroyed in their preseason matchup, so it's really hard to, again, it's hard to take away certain aspects of this, of preseason games. But you look at what the Bills have done in the past. You look at what they did on Saturday. I mean, it was definitely an underwhelming performance where, you saw the offensive line kind of get beat. You saw the defensive line not really get much pressure. It felt like, Caleb Williams, I mean, he looks the part, right? Like off balance, out of the pocket throws on the run, off platform. He has really good targets in Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Remo Dunze, Keenan Allen, good backfield with DeAndre Swift and Herbert. So I think the Bears, I mean, if I'm a Bears fan right now, I'm feeling, because you know how it was with Allen in his rookie year. Those preseason games really mattered. So I feel like on the Bears side, you probably have more to take away. But with a team like the Bills that has had so much success, you probably can't question, like you said, Paul, the effort, and that's obviously a thing that maybe they did lack the energy, lack the spark. But in terms of what it means for the regular season, it doesn't really mean much.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I like that last point, AJ, about how for the Bears, it actually was a more meaningful kind of preseason game because you finally got to see a little bit of what you had in Caleb Williams. And for the most part, he looked really good against our second teams. So maybe they've got something in him. We'll just have to see what happens when he actually gets against real ones in a regular season game. But
for sure.
And it was always going to be the Jags, by the way. It was a very, very big celebration down here when they beat the Chiefs in that preseason game. Even though it was preseason, they did not care. They loved it to death, and so did I. It was always the Jags. But everybody knows
down there. There's fans down there, Connor. There's Jags fans.
Yes, as a matter of fact,
I'm joking.
Hey, I know plenty of them down at the Jacksonville Beach area. A lot of them looked at me when I first came into the area wearing this Taron Johnson jersey and went, "What have you done?" And I went, I found out exactly where I'm supposed to be. But
Jags country is also Bills country. It's all right.
Exactly.
And so let's all go around here and let's shed some positivity off a really bad playoff game, preseason game. I'm already thinking playoffs, and we're only in August. So let's go around and kind of say one player that stood out in week 1 and one player to keep an eye out on week 2 in the preseason.
Ben, you can start. Give it a holler. You gotta get the mic going. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Okay. So I guess I'll just stick who I had earlier because I mean I thought it still was only a couple drives, but I liked what I saw from Khalil Shakir. I mean, just getting open after the catch. Last preseason, the first game, I think he had some hiccups with a couple drops, and he didn't really start off, I guess, on the best note early on, but just the camp he's having so far, just to show so early in the preseason that he's just kind of picking up from last season where he ended. And then I want to see more out of Ray Davis. I liked what I saw so far, but I'm looking forward to see more Ray Davis in week 2.
I'll step in and I'll say, a player that stood out, I said both of these names earlier, but I really feel like seeing these two linebackers do it again this week would just be another right step for the linebacking room as a whole. Dorian Williams just was all over the field, in week 1 of the preseason, and he really, really stood out to me. And then Javon Solomon, really good. He was really like this stat line, 2 tackles and 2 solo tackles for him, but his speed off the edge was great. Him getting into the hole and stopping some of these runs was also great to see out of a 5th round linebacker out of Troy, who we feel that could, if he continues in this right direction, could take over Von Miller when Von Miller eventually departs, and Javon Solomon can just slide right in there. So seeing these guys heading into this weekend is, they stood out in week 1 and show it again in week 2 to be a consistent force on the Bills defense.
I'll go next. I say, Ben, I'm going to go with your second player that you mentioned. So I know he had 5 carries for 2 yards, but I think I saw, again, from Ray Davis, what I've seen all camp, and that's the physicality and the elusiveness. So the 2 plays that come to mind, one, the first reception he had over the middle of the field, it was probably 5 yards upfield, catches it, turns around, linebacker comes on him, breaks a tackle, and gets upfield for a first down for 13 yards. Then another one, a 3rd and 9. He was short of the sticks, but he took the defender head on, trucked the defender, and picked up an extra couple of yards. So I think with Ray Davis, you're seeing what he can be in this Bills offense. I think he's probably the running back too, right? You feel like he's the complement to James Cook at this point. You feel like he's a guy that, when asked, called upon, they can rely on him in terms of maybe pass blocking or what, short yardage, maybe even they can call upon him. So I feel like with what they had with Latavius Murray last year, just wasn't cutting it. I think it was a good start for Latavius, but as the year went on, you felt like he kind of just lost that step, but they still trusted him to be that pass blocker, which is huge. But if you can get a running back too that can do all that stuff, plus, catch into the backfield, short yardage, and is 24, great college production, I really liked what I saw from him in game 1. Player I'm looking forward to seeing, I'll go in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I'm going to cheat. I'll go 2 players. One, I just want to continue to see Lyle Collins. I think he's a big question mark at this point. They gave him a nice contract. He's had success in the past. He's been moved all over the place in terms of guard and tackle with this Bills offensive line. So where can Lyle Collins line up? Can he continue to progress? I thought he had a bounce back game in terms of like training camp. I thought in training camp he really struggled. And then on the defensive line, DeJuan Smoot, I think he could carve out, like, he's so important for this defensive line, I should say, because I think you still don't know what you have in Von Miller. Has he shown flashes during camp? Yes. You continue to see, the first play of the game, Greg Rousseau makes the great run stop, gets off the block, tackles the DeAndre Swift in the hole, limits him to 3 yards. So he still has that. And I think as a pass rusher, he can still get better, right? But then you have AJ Epinesa, who's really the big question mark. I feel like at this point, maybe he's hit his ceiling as a 5 to 7 sack guy in this league. Can you get more out of him? Potentially. So I think DeJuan Smoot goes right into that DN4 role. And I think if he can really put it together coming off an injury, he's really looked good. I want to see it in live action, and I want to see him make, get some quarterback hurry, some quarterback pressure, some hits on the quarterback, get in the backfield, because I think he's very important, along with, like you mentioned, Javon Solomon, who's flashed all camp, and I'm expecting big things from him in his rookie year in a minor role, and a Kingsley Jonathan, who I think is also in the mix for that DN5, DN6 role. So that the bottom of that defensive end chart is definitely something to look forward to moving forward.
All right, Connor, who do you look? Who stood out to you, and who are you keeping an eye on this weekend?
Oh, I had to go last, huh? Because you knew I'm gonna yap nonstop, huh? All right. So I had a few. Admittedly, like I said earlier, before you got in, AJ, I admittedly wasn't able to watch the preseason game as it happened. I was in Daytona.
Dare you? How dare you?
I know, right? I'm terrible. I was trying to find it in Daytona, but admittedly, what I am looking for, and I'm kind of in your boat because I believe the most important position group in football is the offensive line that protects your quarterback. In particular, I want to see how many more snaps Connor McGovern might get at center, because I know during camp they said there were times when he was having some really horrible snaps to Josh Allen, and that was kind of stalling the progress of some of the drives. I look at that, and then I'm reminded of what happened with Connor Williams and Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins last season, and I go, can we not do this? So I'm kind of wondering how many snaps they'll get together as the preseason goes on. I imagine it's not going to be many more. I don't know if I feel like there'd be a lot less in the game against Pittsburgh compared to the third week against, I think it's Carolina. So that for sure. And then kind of to add on to the center position, Cedric Van Prangranger. I don't really remember how much time he got in the game on Saturday, but he had looked really good at camp from the things that I had heard. So I would love to see him get some more time in the preseason just to see kind of how he can be against other competition. It's like I was telling these two earlier, Paul and Ben. I would love to see him go against TJ Watt and Cam Hayward like one time to see how he holds up. If he doesn't hold up, then obviously, what do you got? But if he does better than expected, I would start to question some things. But other than the offensive line, Tyler Bass, no one has talked about special teams yet, and I'm going to. Tyler Bass was the only one to put points on the board for the Bills. I know during camp he's been he's had some really good moments and then some really bad moments. You just wonder what they're going to try to do with the new offense under Joe Brady, if they're going to trust him more or if they're going to trust him less, considering how the season ended last season and just kind of the mixed bag he's had at training camp. So maybe he kicks more from greater than 50 yards out this season, or maybe they try to go for it more on fourth down, outside of that range. I'm not really sure. So that's something I will keep my eye on during the second preseason game, because even when you have the 2s and 3s out there, that won't change. Tyler Bass is the only kicker for now. I know everybody's like, oh, maybe we should get a new kicker. Tyler Bass has quite the contract, so you can't just offload him. But that's what I was going to say.
So AJ, my question would be, obviously you've been at camp. How legit of a shot do you think Kaiir Elam has? Because all reports have been he's just been making plays every day. It seems like, just hearing him talk, he has a newfound confidence. And you hear, obviously, McDermott has a lot of praise for him and the new defensive backs coach. So is that really a legit thing? Do you think Elam can actually win the I don't know if it's corner 1 or 2, but whatever position it is opposite Douglas?
Yeah, let me preface this with, I think the subtraction of John Butler helped Kaiir Elam, and I think that just the overall mindset and his maturity from how players have spoken about him and coaches has grown going into year 3. So I think both those things point in a positive direction. There's no chance that he wins a CB1 or CB2 battle. I just don't think that with Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford. Rasul Douglas, I think, is too valuable as a game changer. And what I mean by that is he can intercept the ball at any point, right? He's a ball hawk. 9 interceptions the last 2 seasons. You feel like last year he didn't really even know the system last year. Like, he came in, Poyer and Hyde were back there. He mentioned during voluntary minicamp when he spoke to the media in June, mandatory minicamp, that he doesn't he didn't really know the Bills defense at that point. He was kind of just thrown out there and figured it out along the way. So I think with Rasul, you're going to play him out there. And then with Christian Benford, I think he's just been so consistent as a player. Every time Kaiir Elam makes a play, it always feels like Benford responds. There were a couple times where Kaiir, you felt like, was pushing some momentum, and then Benford would, he would go out and have his best day at camp. So I think with those two guys, you're locked in with Benford and Douglas. Now, Ben, to your point, maybe they do have a kind of a defensive scheme or a kind of maybe a switch up in the defense where Kaiir Elam does see the field. If they're playing a matchup based team and they want to go matchup based, and they're playing a team that this receiver, analytically really struggles against press man, right? You want to put Kaiir Elam out there, maybe give him some snaps. So maybe there's some sub packages that the Bills can utilize to get Kaiir Elam out there. But I think that the biggest thing for Kaiir right now is becoming that consistent guy that Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace were. Obviously, the ceiling's higher for a Kaiir Elam, but if he can continue to stat these consistent days, use his physicality, but not too much, and not, draw those flags, I think there's an avenue that Kaiir Elam can be, a guy, especially with injury, to get a obviously a major role, but even in a situation where the injuries don't occur, I think he can still be a guy that they utilize on this Bills defense.
I would love it. I would love the resurgence of Kaiir Elam, especially
it's an underdog story. It's an underdog story now, right?
Especially after everybody gave me all the talk about Kaiir Elam being him and how I was giving up on Kaiir Elam too soon. And now that he's got that beautiful number 5 aura, I think he is going to turn it all around, and he's really going to be a guy to watch for on the defensive side of the ball. You just know that when he gets that key interception that wins the Bills a game, it's just everybody's going to go ballistic and love Kaiir forever. But I think I want to transition to this question for you, AJ, because I had been saying this from the get-go and nobody really thought about it too much other than Ben over there. I was one of the people that said we should have never signed Mitch Trubisky to the Bills roster in the first place because I thought we should have signed Jameis Winston. My question for you is, obviously he was excused today for a personal matter, so he's not injured. And now with Shane Buechele's injury, we had to sign Ben DiNucci. How reliable of a backup do you think Mitch Trubisky will be behind Josh Allen to make me eat my words? Do you think that this is a quarterback that can effectively game manage enough to win the Bills additional games should the worst case scenario happen? Or is it just not good and I'll be proven right? What do you think?
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky, I feel like at this point in his career is who he is. And what I mean by that, I think he can be good enough to win you a couple games as a game manager. Now, if it's like a 4 or 5 game stretch, that's where it gets a little iffy. But I think you say that about a lot of backups, right? And in football, I know the Bills with the Buechele injury, there were some, free agents available: Ryan Tannehill, Trevor Siemian, Blaine Gabbert, AJ McCarron, Brian Hoyer, Ben DiNucci. Obviously, they signed Nathan Peterman, the Bills legend, training camp hero. I mean, I would love to see Nate Peterman out there just for the preseason aura he has. You go back to the word aura. I mean, he had the best preseason aura I've ever seen. He outright beat Josh Allen in a quarterback job. So that tells you all you need to know. But I think with what the Bills did with the Ben DiNucci signing, I think that Mitch Trubisky has the QB2 job locked up. I don't think they're going to change there. I think they like the comfortability he has in the system. I know they transitioned to Joe Brady, but he's been here before. He's been around the league. He won some games for Pittsburgh last year, and they kind of have that defense-oriented team that he didn't really have to do much. I think the Bills could maybe squeak a couple wins out. But I mean, with their schedule gauntlet, you look at who they play throughout the year. There's one really kind of easy stretch where they get like Tennessee, Indy, in there a little bit. So there's a kind of an easy stretch, but then before that it's a juggernaut, and after that you got KC, San Fran, LA, Detroit. So there's really no parts of the schedule where I could say like, oh, the backup's going to do anything. But I get your point. You never want to see your backup struggle the way Trubisky did against the Bears, and hopefully moving forward he can kind of make a. He is who he is. So I don't expect much, but I think you expect better than what he put on Saturday.
Exactly. See, I had been saying it from the get-go, and I know it's not technically a Bills player, but I'm still going to watch Jameis Winston when he takes snaps for the Browns in the preseason, because I'll just be looking at everybody going, I told y'all if he looks halfway good. But the thing about the preseason aura that I actually kind of find funny, does anybody remember Skylar Thompson's preseason aura last year? How everybody was like, oh my God, Skylar Thompson might actually contend with Tua for the QB1 role. Then he played meaningful snaps and looked like, not good. So I get the whole fact about preseason aura, and that's all there really is to it. You can have guys that look really well, and then when it gets to real deal crunch time, the lights are too bright. That's why hopefully Mitch will show a little bit more in the preseason, but hopefully we won't have to think about Mitch actually taking real snaps in a meaningful game.
Now, since the joint practices are this week, I mean, I know McDermott didn't really say anything, but I would assume Josh and most of the ones probably aren't going to play in Pittsburgh, right?
I would say the opposite.
Really?
I mean, based off Saturday, based on kind of how McDermott spoke today, based on how Josh Allen's kind of spoken, I would not be like too surprised if he gave the ones one more opportunity this week. You have the joint practice on Thursday, so they got practice tomorrow morning at Tuesday. They're off Wednesday. Then they go Thursday joint practice, off Friday, and then Saturday is a game. So you got 2 off days mixed in there. I don't think they really want them to go the final preseason game. That really never happens. So I think this is your last opportunity to get the starters out there. And, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. But I really could see the starters going out there for a little bit of time, trying to get it right. Like Connor said, maybe get some more reps for Connor McGovern, see what you have, maybe get some Alan Coleman chemistry going and some real game action. So there's some things that I think the offense could still work on. Same defensively. DeMar Hamlin assimilating himself. I think he'll be the week 1 starter. So you have to get that communication down on that end. And we'll see. But right now I'd lean starters playing, but like Ben, to your point, I wouldn't be shocked if they also, didn't play. It's kind of up in the air right now.
Right.
I feel, one end of me says they should play because of how Saturday went, but the other end says you have one more preseason game. You could play them for a quarter and a half against Carolina as your dress rehearsal, in front of your home crowd, and kind of give us, after, the last home game and the way it did, kind of make it feel that, we're ready to go, one last hurrah before we play Arizona. So, maybe we'll see Josh Allen every single game this preseason, which has been probably the first time since his rookie season. So, I mean, if he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, it's more reps for Mitch Trubisky and Bet DiNucci. And if Buechele plays, that will be the rotation.
Ben DiNucci. Get ready.
Hey, the Cowboys legend of 2020.
Yep.
Can't believe we're really at this point.
One last question for you before we let you on your way, AJ. What do we need to see from the Bills this weekend in Pittsburgh? I mean, we talked about impact players, but what is one thing you need to see out of the Bills this weekend to kind of feel, from last week, get the rust off from last week? It was a really bad loss, even though it's preseason, but is it that you need to see more out of the twos? Is it maybe a third player on the third team that's, that you thought was going to perform but didn't perform, and you just need to see a little bit more out of him? What do you need to see out of the Bills this weekend in Pittsburgh?
I think just a spark on either side of the ball. I'll ask all you guys right now. Was there ever a moment? I mean, Connor, you didn't watch, but Ben and Paul, did you feel like at any time, did you get I get it's preseason, it's hard to get excited. Maybe the Khalil Shakir run after the catch got you excited, but was there any moment that you really felt excited? I don't know. I'm asking.
I would say the Curtis Samuel
Bubble
wide
screen.
Receiver screen.
Yeah, that bubble screen got everyone going.
So besides that, right?
Other than that was early on in the game. After that, it just was. I'm going to say it was blah. It wasn't. it wasn't
Right.
entertaining. There was no big plays. Wanted to see more. I guess that's kind of like the thing that's me is like not concerned. I just didn't see anything.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just want to see one side of the ball set the tone. Not like Kendall Williamson, not a cheap shot. I don't want a cheap shot at the head and going out of bounds. But like I want like a nice like tone setting play or an interception or a long run or some young guy to step up and make a play just to get the energy going, get the guys going, because I think that's what they lacked last week. It never felt like they got it going. They never got excited. And then, second half was just like get me through the game. I'm just like, I'm doing updates for the dailynewsonline.com, writing play by play basically. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is, second half and it's preseason, which is also harder because you're out here, talking about players that some of them, they really don't have a chance, a lot of these guys, which stinks, but that's why you do the preseason, because there's those guys that don't have a chance. And then all of a sudden they do. So I think overall, just want to see the young guys continue to mesh, get some chemistry going, continue to build. No injuries, right? Like no injuries is the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, learn along the way, put guys in uncomfortable situations and see what they got. So, yeah, I would say set the tone, make a splash play here or there, get something going, bring the energy, and just don't lose 33-6 again. I mean, don't get embarrassed. Try, put a touchdown on the board. How about that? Score 6. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
We need one touchdown.
Yep. I actually really like it's like I said earlier, putting a guy in an uncomfortable situation. Yeah, let's put SVPG out there with the Woods, have him try to defend against TJ Watt and Cam Hayward for a series. I like the idea. Let's do it.
There you go.
I was thinking about this earlier because we were all talking about Ray Davis, and this is probably the last point I want to make, just so I could actually say it. Ray Davis was the leading running back in total reception touchdowns in the SEC out of college. That's 100% why the Bills signed him, I feel like, because James Cook's receiving ability is questionable at best. And Ray Davis, I feel like, is going to be that kind of guy in the end zone to catch the ball. So I feel like the minute Ray Davis actually catches a touchdown in the end zone, we're all going to be going, yeah, this was a great pick. Brandon Beane was cooking yet again. But I just had to make that point about Ray Davis because not many people remember just how good he was in the SEC in college. And now, of course, college and the NFL are two completely different games, but it's optimism. And I am nothing but an optimist.
For sure.
All right. Thank you again, AJ, for doing this. It was a blast having you on once again. We had you on last year. It was a great time. And where can people find you? And where are you right now? And where can people find the great work that Ajay Cybulski does?
You can follow me on Twitter at Ajay Cybulski, my name, and then that's where all my stuff is. You can follow all my Bills high school sports stuff on the dailynewsonline.com. So anyone that's listening out there that is in the 585, I do some high school stuff over there. So all in all, just producing content, doing my thing. Paul, Ben, Connor, thanks for having me. And it's always fun on the undercovers, and I hope to hear from you guys soon.
Yeah, thank you again, AJ.
Yep, thank
no
you,
problem.
AJ.
All right, we will see you next time. See you guys.
All right, go Bills.
Peace out.
Thank you again to AJ for coming on the show. Great input and just analysis on the Bills. He has great stuff.
Perspective on the
game.
He
just gives great overall perspective. So make sure you follow him. And that's probably going to wrap up the show for tonight too. We did get a little bit into that the Steelers game, and obviously we don't really know if Allen's gonna play or not. So it's kind of hard to really fully talk about that game without knowing what the deal is with the ones or not. I'm sure Coach McDermott will give some more updates, but next show next Monday for sure we'll definitely have more on that Steelers game, of course, and then if anything notable happened during joint practices. But other than that,
before we stop,
and Connor has a PSA.
Before we stop, it happened. It's happening right now. Multiple teams have inquired about trading for Patriots player Matthew Judon. And I was thinking about it when I saw the tweet, and I was like, he's due $6.5 million. Let's put this man on the Bills. Let's get this man to the Bills.
We don't need another linebacker / edge, though.
I will literally pound the table for anybody that makes us better and our division rivals weaker. Matthew Judon is the Patriots' best player. Could you just imagine? Just think about it. You're getting rid of their best player.
Well,
you're increasing our own linebacking core. You're increasing how good it is. Imagine a room with Judon, Milano, and Bernard.
Well, that is an interesting take as we wrap up. But thank you again for tuning in, and go Bills.
Go Bills.